Ever wanted to break out of your cubicle and into a business where you can call the shots? iFix is looking for passionate self-starters interested in a franchise opportunity in the booming electronics repair industry. At iFix, we help reconnect people to the devices that they rely on so that they can get back to what matters most. This is a big responsibility, and from the moment you join our family, our franchisees are provided with the resources and support to bring affordable and convenient electronics repair to your community. Did we mention that with amazing partners like Samsung and Google, iFix franchisees also have access to the highest quality parts and personalized training out there, as well as specialized tools? It's true. And it's also easy to visit ubreakifix.com/franchising and learn more about your big break at your very own iFix.
In the new Discovery Plus original true crime series Relentless, follow filmmaker Christina Fontana as she helps a family searching for their missing daughter, going down a rabbit hole of drugs, corruption, organized crime, and possibly murder. Relentless, now streaming on Discovery Plus. Start your free trial.
I've reached that point in dad mode where I've got my 15-year-old is really just a naturally gifted artist. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, she really is good. And my son he wants to play soccer, so he's playing soccer. And I want him to do something outside. He needs to move around. He's in front of a screen so much. And he likes soccer. He plays soccer. But can we just, it's not just me, I know, but I feel occasionally guilty where I'm thinking, is it going to rain so we don't have to go to the game? I mean, he loves to play. I like to watch him play. He appreciates me being there. But, you know, I've got friends who do travel ball for their kids. And everybody's convinced their kid's going to get some sort of athletic scholarship, and they're not. And travel ball, it just gets miserable. And everyone I know who does travel ball with their kids, the parents just seem privately miserable. And I work enough that I don't like to give up my weekend anyway. And to do something like travel ball, and then the ungodly nature of it, to do it on a Sunday. Hey, kids, let's teach you that there's something more important than God on Sunday. I'm glad my kid is playing. I really am. And now, you know, I'm done by 3. This is now with my work schedule doing 2 shows, 9 to noon and then noon to 3. And I'm done after 3 o'clock. And I still find myself wanting to stick around in the office because I'm convinced I need to do something, because I can't remember in my entire working life, I've never been done at the office before 6. For the longest time before 7, and now I'm done by 3, and what am I going to do? And now the kid is like, Dad, you could go get a golf membership and we go hit golf balls together. And I'm thinking that's not a bad idea once he's done with soccer, particularly this summer. Go get a golf cart. He can learn to drive a golf cart. Well, he can drive and be my designated driver, so I can day drink and hit golf balls. And I think we will probably be well balanced in doing that. But your kids grow up, and you got to find new ways to entertain them and be active with them. All right. Let's move on. Enough about that. The phone number again, 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. Man, the Andrew Cuomo scandals have gotten so egregious, the media more and more can't ignore them. Now, the New York Post is a longtime critic of Andrew Cuomo, so they've got enough stuff there to cover him. And it's amazing how most of the New York media isn't even covering the nursing home scandal. And the reason they're not, this is very important, I think, for everyone to understand. The New York media is covering Andrew Cuomo's sexual harassment scandal in ways they're not covering the nursing home scandal, in large part as a mea culpa. They were complicit in the nursing home scandal. They knew it was going on the entire time they were attacking Ron DeSantis, even though Ron DeSantis was making the right decisions to protect the elderly, and Andrew Cuomo didn't. They were ignoring Andrew Cuomo. CNN had him on CNN every night with his brother, verbal incest with his brother on CNN. And so the media now has to cover the scandal of the sex scandal as a mea culpa. They can't admit that they didn't cover and still won't cover the nursing home scandal, but they got to do something. So they're giving coverage to his sexual harassment as a way to make up for not covering him killing a bunch of senior citizens, or to make up for him killing a bunch of senior citizens. Now, the New York Post is one of the few newspapers in New York that has called him out the whole time, and they're the only one running this story. Governor Andrew Cuomo's cover-up of nursing home COVID deaths was even worse than we thought. It turns out his Department of Health started collecting the key data a full year ago, even as it kept the information secret in defiance of lawmakers' rights, as well as freedom of information law. A Department of Health memo obtained by the New York Post shows the department began ordering care homes to report both in-home and in-hospital deaths of residents last April. Yet for 9 months, Team Cuomo refused to share it, with Health Commissioner Howard Zucker insulting legislators with bogus claims the info wasn't accurate enough to release, and other staffers falsely claiming they couldn't compile the information to comply with Freedom of Information law requests from the Empire Center. In January, Attorney General Tish James finally called out the clear signs that total deaths were half again what Team Cuomo was pretending, and only then did the Department of Health release the true tally. The conspiracy was all about hiding the evidence of a deadly scandal. Department of Health Commissioner Zucker's March 25th, 2020 order forced homes to admit COVID-contagious patients without even testing them. That clearly led to needless deaths. Meanwhile, the governor's top people conspired to bully health professionals into pulling the truth from last July's Department of Health report that falsely claimed to prove the order was harmless. The media, the national media, particularly CNN, is culpable in this, but so too is the New York Times. CNN was praising Andrew Cuomo as a way to beat up Donald Trump. They needed Andrew Cuomo. He was useful to them at the time. He's no longer useful. They cannot go back and admit that they were willing idiots in covering for Cuomo. So now they've got to go after him for sexual harassment as a way to make it up. Here's the headline in the New York Times, another newspaper that covered for, apologized for, and defended Andrew Cuomo for his handling of killing old people. Headline, Cuomo aide says governor groomed her for months before groping. Subtitle, a woman who has accused Governor Andrew Cuomo of groping her in the executive mansion said she warned him, "You're going to get us in trouble." A woman who has accused Governor Andrew Cuomo of groping her in the executive mansion gave a fuller account in a published report on Wednesday, detailing how she believed the governor had groomed her for months with a series of tight hugs and sexually suggestive comments. She said in an interview with the Times-Union of Albany, New York, that Mr. Cuomo asked invasive questions about her personal life, recalling that at one point last year the governor told her, quote, "Oh, if you were single, the things that I would do to you," end quote. The groping incident followed later in 2020, said the woman, an administrative assistant who still works at the Capitol and who spoke on the condition of anonymity. In late November, she said the governor summoned her to a second-floor office at the executive mansion. The woman told the Times-Union that Mr. Cuomo closed the door and reached under her blouse. "He pulled me close, and all I remember is seeing his hand, his big hand," the woman said in the interview. Moments later, the governor grasped one of her breasts over her bra, leaving her so confused and so taken aback, she said. She told the Times-Union she had told the governor, "You're going to get us in trouble," because she didn't know what else to say. It was pretty much like, "What are you doing?" she said, adding, "He said, I don't care." Several current and former employees have lodged sexual harassment allegations against Mr. Cuomo in recent months, and other women have come forward with accounts of uncomfortable interactions with the governor. The alleged groping in the governor's mansion was the most sexually aggressive allegation, and it was forwarded to the state attorney general, Letitia James, who is overseeing an inquiry into the sexual harassment claims against the governor. In a text exchange with the New York Times on Wednesday, the woman confirmed the details that she told the Times-Union, as well as the fact that she had spoken to investigators deputized by Ms. James. She's one of several accusers who have been interviewed by the Attorney General's investigators, led by June H. Kim, a former acting U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, and Ann Clark, a well-regarded employment discrimination lawyer. A separate state assembly investigation is also underway with a broader mandate, which also includes looking at the governor's handling of the state's nursing homes, where more than 15,000 people died during the pandemic, Both investigations are scheduled to take months to complete. Many of the state's Democratic leaders have now asked Mr. Cuomo to resign, with some of those calls following the groping allegations. The woman said that after the governor had groped her, she told him he was crazy, a comment she said seemed to hurt his ego. He turned around and walked back to his desk. He didn't say anything. I walked myself out to the front door, and nothing was said. It was almost like I felt like a piece of garbage to him. I felt degraded. Wow. Notice, however, that one paragraph from the New York Times. The state legislature is investigating him for his culpability in 15,000 deaths at nursing homes. 15,000 deaths at nursing homes. On the day that Andrew Cuomo's team ordered nursing home residents returned to nursing homes from hospitals without testing, Ron DeSantis in Florida, having reviewed the data, decided that it was best to shut down all nursing homes and bar any COVID patient from returning to a nursing home. In fact, he required that COVID-positive nursing home residents be moved to different facilities until they tested negative, and then they could be returned. The media blasted and still blasts Ron DeSantis for supposed anti-science. They are attacking Ron DeSantis for not locking down the state of Florida. They are attacking Ron DeSantis. Remember in Jacksonville, earlier in the pandemic, you saw mass crowds at beaches, but they were using zoom lenses, the media was, so it looked like people were more compact on the beach than they actually were. They were more spread out. You would never know that from the media coverage. And the media was talking about the deaths at Jacksonville Beach. They were giving wall-to-wall coverage of the lawyer and Democratic activist who was dressing up as the Grim Reaper, who himself is now in legal trouble. They were interviewing him on CNN as if he was some sort of truthful activist. And things didn't go the media's way. Now, 60 Minutes engages in an ongoing character assassination of the governor of Florida and has released yet another statement trying to defend its 60 Minutes report that even outside media organizations are starting to say wasn't honest. And yet they do their best to not talk about Andrew Cuomo. They only talk about him now when local media in New York offers up something so salacious that they can't ignore it. A woman who claims she was groped, who says, now the New York Post says, there wasn't just a hug. He went for it, and I was kind of like, oh, the door is right there. This is, notice again, the quotes that the New York Post chooses to use in its coverage of the exact same incident that the New York Times chose not to. Let me read you the New York Post coverage of the same thing. When she entered his second-floor office, she said Cuomo came out from behind the desk and aggressively embraced her in what she described as an overt sexual manner that wasn't just a hug. He went for it, and I was kind of like, oh, the door's right there. The woman said she quietly freaked out. I didn't know what to say. It was pretty much like, what are you doing? That's when he slammed the door. He said, I don't care. Although the sound of the door was loud enough that Cuomo's staff most likely wondered what was going on, he wasn't deterred. He came right over. He pulled me close. And all I remember is seeing his hand, his big hand. I remember looking down like, holy beep. Cuomo, 63, reached under her blouse, grabbed her breast over her bra. I was so confused. I was taken aback. He never said anything, which was odd. That was the first blatant move. She said she also believed Cuomo tried to groom her. It was never in front of anybody. He made sure that it was either at the mansion or if it was at the Capitol that no one was around. A co-worker, Allison McGrath, also told the New York Times late last month that the woman confided in her about the groping. They can't avoid covering the story. But just notice how quickly they moved on from the nursing home scandal. Notice how quickly they moved on from his helping Chris Cuomo, his brother. Notice how they moved on. Notice how they try to underplay and understate the facts about the nursing homes in all the major media outlets out there, because they can never admit they used Andrew Cuomo as a way to get to Donald Trump. They used Andrew Cuomo as a way to embarrass Donald Trump. They used Andrew Cuomo to say this guy's competent when he wasn't. And now they got to make up for it. But even in making up for it, they want to minimize some of the details because it makes them look bad, because this is who he always was. The media knew it the whole time. And frankly, the more we learn about the media, this is who the media is too. So they have a hard time covering it. You're making plans. I can tell you one thing you should do is go to omahasteaks.com and get their Let's Go Grill package, because it is perfect for the warmer weather. People are getting the pollen off their grills and ready to fire them up. You get 4 butcher cut fillets. You get 4 boneless pork chops. You get 4 boneless chicken breasts. You get 4 kielbasa sausages. You get scalloped potatoes, caramel apple tartlets, their signature seasoning, and pay attention to this one. You get 12 Omaha Steak burgers, almost 4 pounds of hamburgers for free. For free. Now, how do you get this? Well, you go to omahasteaks.com and you put Georgia in the search bar. Up at the top of the site, there's a search bar. You know what? I do this. I'm still one of those old-fashioned people who likes to use my actual laptop as opposed to my phone. But, yep, if you go to the phone, look at this. It says we're experiencing unprecedented demand for all your gourmet favorites. Inventory quantities are limited, so don't delay. Order today. Well, you should. You'll see a little magnifying glass on the if you use your phone. Click the magnifying glass and put Georgia in. And when you do and you click search, you too will get the Let's Go Grill package. You're going to save over 45%. You're going to get 4 pounds of burgers for free. And they are great burgers. They're not your standard grocery store ground chuck. So go to omahasteaks.com today. Put Georgia in the search bar. You can thank me later. You can have your friends over. Life can go back to normal. Y'all, I just done with the ad here. Life going back to normal. In Great Britain, the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip, the Queen's husband, for more than 70 years has died. And he wanted, I'm reading in the paper during commercial break, minimal fuss to begin with. He planned his funeral a decade ago when he was 89. He died at 99. He wanted minimal fuss. And now it's going to be less fuss because of COVID regulations. But Great Britain, the United Kingdom, is starting to come out from behind closed doors because Britain has been able to rally. So many people there got the virus to begin with. A lot of them have natural immunity, but tons and tons and tons of people in Great Britain now are getting the vaccine at a rapid clip, better than the rest of Europe. So many people, I mentioned this yesterday, so many people have been saying that that they thought that Britain would lag behind. They thought Britain would be worse off, that Britain would be terrible. But you know what? They're ahead of the rest of Europe. And so even though they've still got some COVID restrictions and the Duke of Edinburgh wanted minimal fuss, he will still get something. Now, he wanted no state funeral. So they won't get one, but it's still going to be a big deal over there. And they're going to be able to get this. They're going to be able to mourn him. Crowds have been lining up at Buckingham Palace, dropping off flowers, and at Windsor Castle as well, where he died. Crowds are dropping off lots of flowers. This is going to be something to behold. I mean, we haven't seen anything like this, I guess, since the Queen's mother died, who had Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. But I mean, this is kind of historic, whether you're into the royal family or not. 3 generations of British subjects and of the Commonwealth have had this guy as their queen's husband. His image has appeared on coins along with hers, and so it'll be a big deal for a lot of people. Not as big as the Queen. I've got a friend of mine who's from the UK, who's now an American citizen, And it is remarkable the amount of affection he has for the British royal family, particularly the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh. Absolutely remarkable. He gets emotional talking about him as if the Queen is his other mother. And he hadn't lived in the country in years, and yet he still gets remarkably emotional about it. What a connection to have a leader of your country who is not political. In this country, of course, we tried to model to a degree the presidency to some degree after the king with very limited powers, but combining the political and the national into one person. And it has largely worked. The presidents can still at sometimes lift people up who are partisans against them, but not like the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh can in Britain. This will be a remarkable event to watch. When we come back, Stacey Abrams. Oh, yes, we must talk about her. Matt Schaefer is going to join me. He's a Texas state representative. Georgia just had its fight over election laws, and now Texas is having its. And, of course, corporate America and the wokes are gearing up to protest and boycott Texas now. Fortune 500 companies coming out and harassing Texas. I want to spend a little time on that next week, and he is in the state house there where they are delving into this issue. Before I get into the Stacey Abrams stuff, the National Review is running. I want to play this for you, and let me set this up for you so you understand. And I realize some of you, it's not a big deal for you. You're listening. Why do we even care about this stuff? So when I was a kid, I grew up in Dubai, and in Dubai, if a member, to this day actually, if a member of the royal family died, radio and television was nothing but classical music for at least a week. Depending on the status of the royal, it could be 2 weeks. They would interrupt for news, and everyone would be dressed in black. And it was a remarkable thing that we don't get anything like this really in this country. When a president dies, the most recent was President George H.W. Bush passed away, and the media coverage of that lasted for about a week through the duration of his funeral. Lots of daily coverage. The day he died, I remember I was doing an event for Clark Howard, my friend from WSB Radio up in Peachtree City, and the news broke as I was driving, and it went wall-to-wall coverage. And for multiple days on TV and radio, that was the coverage. That's the closest we get. We can't really understand what happens. And then with the British, all of the announcements come from the British Broadcasting Corporation, and no one knows, the Press Association and the like, you don't get word of this. It happens on the BBC. They interrupt, and they make the announcement, and then every other news channel can get it. And the Telegraph from London has put up the video of it happening live on the BBC. And you can just hear Martine Croxwell, the anchor. She gets super emotional. I want to play this for you, and then I got to tell you what happens in the video since you can't see it, because that's the other remarkable thing that happens with stuff like this.
You're watching BBC News. We have just received a statement from Buckingham Palace confirming that the Duke of Edinburgh has died. The statement says, "It is with deep sorrow that Her Majesty the Queen has announced the death of her beloved husband, His Royal Highness, the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. His Royal Highness passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle." We have just received this information from Buckingham Palace. Let me repeat this news. "It is with deep sorrow that Her Majesty the Queen has announced the death of her beloved husband, His Royal Highness, the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. His Royal Highness passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle."
You hear that little clap at the end. So they roll footage, B-roll footage of the Duke of Edinburgh there. And when the camera comes back to her, she's been wearing jewelry and this burgundy top. And when the footage then comes back to her, she's dressed all in black, and all of her jewelry is removed. And that's one of the things that the countries that have royalty tend to do, is that everyone dresses in black. So now if you were to watch the live stream news coverage now from Great Britain, from ITV or from Sky News or from the BBC, everybody is now in black. And the British royal family for 30 days will wear black. There will be official mourning for 8 days, according to Buckingham Palace today, but they'll all be in black for at least the next 30 days. Flags at half staff for 30 days. And for royalty, it's 6 months. For 6 months, they all wear black. For if it was the head of state, it's just remarkable. I remember this as a kid. I remember waking up one morning and turning on it. And so growing up in Dubai, it's different now, but when I was a kid there, TV did not start until 4 p.m. Started at 3 p.m. on Saturdays, but literally television did not come on until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock on weekdays. And it started for 15 minutes. There was a call to prayer. And then there were kids' cartoon programming for about an hour or so. And then you would start into BBC documentaries. And then by 8 o'clock, you had some American TV show, Magnum PI, Dallas, something. All the violence and sex was cut out. So your 40-minute American show would sometimes last 20 minutes. If it was Dallas and there was kissing, they'd cut it out. And that was it. You'd have a 20-minute show. And then you'd have a movie or something, 21 Jump Street, late night, something a little more grown up. It was all very funny. Occasionally you would get newscasts, and the newscaster would come on and say, "Good evening. There is no local news tonight. We'll get straight to weather." And so that's it. It's going to be hot. It'll be 99 degrees today and no rain. That's the news. They'd play some musical interlude of the BBC video of a train going through the countryside. But when someone died who was of note, you turn on the TV and there'd just be music. That's it. There'd be the person's picture with English and Arabic announcing the person had died and their life, and then there would just be music. And for a week, there'd be nothing. So you'd have to go to we used to have this thing called the movie store where you could go get videotapes and you could watch movies. Gosh, now my kids have no idea what this stuff is. What is a Blockbuster video? They have no idea. I had to explain it to my kid when I took him to see Captain Marvel when it's set in the 90s and she crash lands in a Blockbuster video. He's like, "What is this place?" I was like, "Oh my gosh, seriously?" All right. We can move on now. We got to get into these stories. National Review is doing really good work on this. Rich Lowry, the editor of National Review, has a piece out. The time Stacey Abrams suppressed the law. By the time the reader of Stacey Abrams' book, Our Time Is Now, gets to page 89, he is numb with the relentless contentions that any effort to make the Georgia election system more secure or economical, any bureaucratic mistake or inefficiency, is evidence of a dastardly scheme to suppress the vote. Then he is jolted alert again when Abrams writes how while in the state legislature in 2011, she co-sponsored legislation to slash the early voting period in Georgia in half and succeeded. By her own logic, Stacey Abrams suppressed the vote in Georgia and did it more blatantly than anything in the state's new voting law, which will actually extend early voting hours in many places. Anyone calling the Georgia law Jim Crow 2.0, at the very least, has his enumeration wrong. The Stacey Abrams supported bill in 2011 should, on these terms, give the 2.0 designation, rendering the new law Jim Crow 3.0. The Abrams legislation cut the days of early voting from 45 all the way down to 21. Why? Abrams said that early voting could be a cost-prohibitive burden to local governments. Similar jurisdictions, she writes, complained they'd have to cut back in other budget areas to maintain the longer period of early voting, and the costs of keeping a facility open were the same whether many people were using it or not. All undoubtedly true, but this didn't stop her and her allies from attributing the worst possible motives to localities that closed down polling places on the basis of exactly the same kind of reasoning. It didn't make fiscal sense for cash-strapped jurisdictions to continue to operate underutilized polling places. In her book, she portrays such decisions as a return to the bad old days enabled by the Supreme Court's Shelby decision that ended federal review of changes in the electoral system in Georgia and elsewhere. She herself collaborated in this. She herself collaborated in reducing the number of days of early voting in Georgia. And now she went up to New Jersey, which has 9 days of early voting, and claims that somehow New Jersey is more fair than Georgia. She claims that somehow that it's better there with 9 days. She's just making stuff up, if we're honest about it. She's making wild claims for attention. And the problem here, of course, is that Abrams, well, she knows all of this stuff. She knows that what she's saying isn't true. But she also knows the media is never going to hold her to the truth, because the media has a vested interest in helping the Democrats keep people incensed and enraged. Now, the Daily Signal at the Heritage Foundation has done what a lot of you have asked me to do, and I'm glad that they've done it. The Daily Signal, Fred Lucas, has written a comparison of Georgia's voting laws to the rest of the nation. Democrats have repeatedly denounced the new Georgia election integrity law that requires IDs for absentee ballots, but seldom criticizes blue states that have comparable laws on the books, or in some cases, laws making it more difficult to vote than in Georgia. Overall, the Georgia law is pretty much in the mainstream and is not regressive or restrictive. Jason Sneed, executive director of Honest Elections Project, told the Daily Signal, the ability of absentee ballots and early voting is a lot more progressive than what's in blue states. It turns out the more people learn about Georgia's voting law, one, the more they like it. A Daily Signal poll, which is left-leaning, has a plurality of people support Georgia's law. But also now the Daily Signal at the Heritage Foundation has compared Georgia's law to blue state laws. And it turns out that a number of Democratic states, blue states, they've got more onerous, more burdensome election laws than Georgia. New York, for example, President Biden could just as easily has been referring to New York State's election law when he said, without specifying a state, that it's sick, citing as an example, deciding in some states that you can't bring water to people standing in line waiting to vote. New York prohibits providing meat, drink, tobacco, refreshment, or other provision with a retail value of more than $1 within 100 feet of the entrances to polling places. Montana is the only other state besides New York and Georgia that prohibits campaign workers from handing out drinks. Georgia's law now allows for 17 days of early voting. New York, by contrast, only allows 10 days of in-person voting. A New York Post editorial noted the Empire State fares poorly on making it easier to vote compared to Georgia, noting both more time to vote early and Georgia's no-excuse absentee voting. New York requires voters have an excuse to cast an absentee ballot. Biden called Georgia's voting system Jim Crow in the 21st century, but unlike Georgia, Biden's home state of Delaware has never allowed early in-person voting. The state will begin doing so in 2022. Even when Delaware does allow it, Georgia will still provide 7 more days of early voting than Delaware. Similar to Georgia, Delaware, under its law, will allow Saturday and Sunday voting. However, in Delaware, they will require that you be announced and your party be announced so people can challenge you at the polls. That's current Georgia or Delaware law. Delaware, the first state to ratify the U.S. Constitution, is among the last in the country to allow early voting. In Colorado, where Major League Baseball is going, Colorado's voting laws are more strict in some respects. It's not a clear-cut comparison because Colorado mails out ballots to all active voters, but voter service and polling centers must be open 15 days before an election. That's 2 fewer than Georgia. Moreover, Colorado's law states if you're voting by mail for the first time, you have to provide a photocopy of your identification when you return your mail-in ballot. The Georgia law will just require the absentee balloter to put their driver's license number or the last 4 digits of their social security number on the absentee ballot. To vote in Georgia, a person needs photo identification just as they do at the will call ticket window at Coors Field, wrote David Harsanyi at the National Review Analysis. In New Jersey, Stacey Abrams, the Democrat who lost the 2018 governor's race in Georgia, made a virtual appearance to celebrate the state's new early voting law, but New Jersey provides 9 fewer days of early voting than Georgia. In Rhode Island, Rhode Island is more restrictive in some aspects. Rhode Island has a stricter deadline requiring absentee ballot requests to be submitted 21 days before Election Day. The 11-day deadline that Georgia requires puts Georgia on par with Texas, Arizona, Idaho, and Iowa. Florida has a 10-day rule. Indiana has a 12-day rule. Nebraska requires requests to be submitted by the third Friday before the election. Missouri requires applications to be made 2 Wednesdays before the election. Rhode Island has one of the most burdensome with a 21-day requirement. On and on it goes. It turns out that Georgia's rules are right in line with a lot of Democratic states, or in some cases, way more progressive than Democratic states. Now, a lot of you have been asking for this information. If you text the word data to 33777, I'm going to send you back a link to this report at the Daily Signal so you can compare it or share it with your friends. All of your friends who think Georgia somehow has onerous, burdensome rules now in election, you can disabuse them of that by texting the word data to 33777. I'll send you back this link from the Heritage Foundation report of the Daily Signal showing that there are a whole bunch of Democratic states out there, with including Joe Biden's own home state, with way more burdensome rules than the state of Georgia. They'll be shocked and appalled to learn that Georgia is actually fairly progressive compared to the Democratic states. He's not on the job. He just outed himself as at McDonald's instead of actually working. I may have to fire him again. But he went to McDonald's and he ordered a burger, and he said he just wanted bacon and cheese on the burger. They have literally given him a bun that has bacon and cheese between it and no burger. He should have gone to Omaha Steaks and he could have gotten 4 pounds of burgers for free to use. Literally, they gave him a bacon and cheese sandwich with no actual hamburger. Wow. You know, I did that the other day. So I used the app at McDonald's. I used the app at McDonald's to order a burger the other day. And I asked for extra ketchup and no pickles. I don't like pickles on my burger. Shut up. You're weird. I'm not. I don't like pickles on burger. I used the app, so it came across exactly as I wanted it. Extra ketchup and no pickles. They gave me no ketchup, extra mustard, and extra pickles. How do you screw this up? Is it any wonder that these companies are moving to kiosks and machines, and yet they're still screwing up the orders? I have no idea. At this point, I'm getting kind of paranoid. Do they know it's me and they're just screwing it up intentionally? It's like going to Chick-fil-A the other day, and some poor guy, he heard me talking about it on air, and he reached out. He was a good sport about it. He got my order and I got his order. I don't know how Chick-fil-A does it to begin with. We should probably put Chick-fil-A in charge. It's rare when they screw up an order. They screwed up ours the other day. I got that guy's sausage biscuit and he got my bacon, egg, and cheese with extra bacon and no cheese. Of course, I got his sausage, egg, and cheese with no egg and cheese. I don't get it, but God bless the people at Chick-fil-A. They're still the best. How do you order a burger with just bacon and cheese on it, and they don't even give you the burger part of it? I don't know. But they did. Maybe someone has a sense of humor. All right, we got to move on to other stuff. Sony Pictures is exiting the streaming wars. So, everybody is coming up with their streaming packages. And Sony has given up. Sony has entered into a deal with Netflix, where Netflix will get its first run pictures first. So Starz Entertainment has been Sony's streaming service. I did not actually realize that. And everything's going to go to Netflix now. So Morbius, which is a Spider-Man offshoot with Jared Leto as a vampire, and Uncharted, a Tom Holland picture about a PlayStation game. Oh, that sounds like a real winner. They're going to go to Netflix first. Meanwhile, HBO Max is doing a pretty good job. I'll tell you who's not. NBC, Comcast, their Peacock service kind of sucks. I got a buddy of mine who is a huge WWE fan, loves wrestling, has the WWE package, and now they're making you use Peacock, and it's not even compatible with apparently some or most Samsung TVs. He's had a terrible experience having paid for the package to be able to watch wrestling, and now he can't. The Comcast people just seem to be inept when it comes to this. The Warner Brothers HBO Max service is pretty good. You know, I gotta say, if you're looking for if you have HBO Max, I liked Godzilla versus King Kong. Now it is a movie that does exactly as the title says it is. Godzilla versus King Kong. The monsters are beating the crap out of each other within the first 15 minutes of the movie, and they do it for an hour and a half. It's well done in my mind. And I watched it with my son. There's some language, but I mean, it's monsters beating each other up. It's not that bad. It's something to watch this weekend. Or watch Ted Lasso. Get your Apple TV Plus subscription and watch Ted Lasso. It's still the greatest TV show out there right now in my mind. All right, when I come back on Monday, well, I'll have some news for you, but I can't talk to you about it right now. Have a good weekend.
Fracture prints your digital photos directly onto glass, making your favorite moments come alive in vivid color. Hand-assembled in the USA, Fracture glass prints are a unique and beautiful way to display and share your favorite moments. Simply upload your photo at fractureme.com, select your size, and your glass print will be shipped to you, ready to hang with just one screw. Use code POD15 to get 15% off your order today. That's code POD15 at fractureme.com.
Me, but also you. The Pharaoh fast forwards his favorite foreign film, Powder Donut. Okay, what's my line?
The only line I see here on the script is get options based on your budget with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive.
Oh man, that's a tongue twister, huh? I'm sorry, I'm gonna need a few more minutes. Bulbous Walrus, the Bulbous Walrus.
The Name Your Price tool, only from Progressive.
The owl ran afoul of the comatose coxswain.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.